I was 30 when I went through heart surgery. And before that, I mean, I was good. I was amazing. I loved warehouse work. I loved being outdoors. I loved being active. I didn't want to ever sit in an office. I didn't want to be in that environment. I did property maintenance for years, which was literally me getting up at 4 in the morning, going to this job site, getting a work truck, going to these properties like the malls and stuff, and I would go to the dumpster area because people go and dump their stuff, right? So you go to the dumpster and you're like picking up these tires and mattresses that people have left there. You put them in the back of your work truck. You go through the property. You've got this big old blower on your back, and you're like blowing everything into this pile. And it's like this strong, manly work, right? And I loved it. It was like my favorite job ever. From there, I went into warehouse work, forklift, moving stuff. And then it was like, you got to have heart surgery. Everything's changing. I even went to school for HVAC before I got sick. Actually, I was in school for HVAC when I got sick. I had 2 months left. I wanted to do heating, AC, ventilation, all this stuff. Started getting sick, and once I started going to the doctor, and I was like, no, what do you mean? Like, he's like, well, what do you do? What's your career? I told him, it's like, you can't be an addict. You can't be climbing through stuff. This is not you anymore. And I had to go to the college and let them know that. So when that happened, I was like, this is the career that I wanted to do. I really loved it. I had already learned like the electrical part and the building, the ventilation and everything, that I was really disappointed. So ended up going through the heart surgery. That created such a traumatic experience for me that I'm on disability. Is crazy because I've got so many medical issues, but I'm on disability for PTSD. So when they look at it, it's like my diagnosis is PTSD because I went into such trauma and shock the whole year. I don't even think it lasted a year. That I ended up getting put into a mental hospital. And I was in the NICS for about 10 days. I did become very suicidal. I was very depressed. I was always afraid that I was going to die, that it got to the point where I was like, just do it already. Like, I was really just done with the constant fear because, of course, before this, I didn't even know I had a heart condition. I had no idea I had anything wrong with me. Really just thought I was sleepy all the time. I was just really tired and drained. And when we found out the severity of it, my doctor was like, okay, need you here on Thursday. It's 5 a.m. pacemaker. And I'm like, okay, what Thursday? Like, gotta let my job know. He's like, no, ma'am. I'm talking 2 days from now. You're coming in. You're getting. I was like, no, I have a whole life. I mean, I have 4 kids at this time. My daughter was like 2. So I'm like, no. He's like, you don't have a choice. So now, coming out of heart surgery, I now have a device inside me. I now have, something that's beating for me. I now know in my head that I have something wrong with me. It was just constant fear that closed me off to everybody and everything. It took me a really long time to understand what I went through. And not only that, realizing that it was a normal thing to go through. It's normal to freak out after a traumatic experience. It's normal to freak out after surgery, after, whatever I went through. A big part of it thought me like, I'm just going crazy. This is not normal. You shouldn't act like this. People have surgery all the time. But going through the process of talking to doctors and talking to counselors in the NICS, doing all of that, it was them telling me like, this is normal. This is a traumatic experience. This is PTSD. We're going to work on this. So I stayed for 10 days. They let me, I got released on outpatient. Still end up doing months of outpatient treatment. They would send a taxi to the house, pick me up like 3 times a week. I went to classes, did this full program, really got to learn what I was going through, how to deal with it, learn the difference between anxiety, panic attacks, and just everything, and really started to move forward. But I still never knew anybody my age that went through what I went through. So I always felt really alone in it. So it took years of kind of just understanding it, grasping it, really just realizing like, okay, this is your life now. You don't get to, you're not taking the pacemaker out. It's going to be there forever. Since then I've had other illnesses come about. So it took a really long time to just learn this is your life. What are you going to do with it now?